Hey hello everybody, and welcome to another weekly recap. These videos are meant to go over any interesting things that may have happened in the RuneScape community this week, focusing on content updates, community achievements, or suggestions for future content, anything constructive coming out of the RuneScape community. We're not going to be focusing on memes or drama or anything like that, just information. Anyway, let's get started. So we had one main content update this week, and that is the introduction of the Making Friends with My Arm quest. Today's new quest revisits some old lore. My Arm the Troll from My Arm's Big Adventure must embark on another journey of discovery. This time you'll be escorting him to Weiss, a newly discovered troll town in the far north. So this is a new quest designed by Mod Ash and is a continuation of the troll quest line. To start this quest, you'll need to have completed My Arm's Big Adventure, Swan Song, Cold War, Romeo and Juliet, and have an agility level of 68, a mining level of 72, a construction level of 35, and a firemaking level of 66. However, you'll only need the required firemaking level to start the quest. Now, the main reward from this quest are permanent fire pits. Now, not all of them passed the poll, but there are some still in the game, as well as another disease-free farming patch. So there are 4 different fires throughout the game that pass the poll. There is the Fire of Eternal Light, which will illuminate you within the Lumbridge Swamp. There's the Fire of Nourishment, which unlocks a new disease-free patch. The Fire of Unseasonable Warmth, which renders you permanently immune to the cold weather effects around God Wars. And the Fire of Dehumidification, which prevents swamp damage and gas attacks in the Mormire area. On top of that, another very useful reward from it is that you can now build a Troll Stronghold portal in your POH, which will be very useful. So that is it for content updates this week. We have a few pretty interesting pieces of news and very exciting pieces of news to say the least. To start off here, Oldschool RuneScape Mobile is finally coming out. The release date is October 30th. This is the official release date for the full launch of Oldschool RuneScape Mobile. To play the full mobile version the moment it's released, you can actually pre-order the app in the App Store. I've never done that before, but I think it just will queue it to download as soon as the app goes live. I know it took a long time for it to come out and some people were disappointed, but I'm really happy they waited and made sure it was a reasonably polished product before releasing it. But I can't believe it's actually finally happening. About a year late, but still better late than never. Next up, Woox has completed the first Theater of Blood solo. That is absolutely insane. Who else would have done this, to be honest? Now, as far as I'm aware, he went into a 3-man raid and managed to solo all of it, including Verzak, which is an absolutely insane accomplishment. There should be a VOD of it somewhere, but I'm just going to show you this image. Now, I made a video on Runelight yesterday, so I thought this was worth mentioning. A very common scam is a phishing website that will pop up when you type in Runelight. If you don't have your ad block on, this will pop up pretty frequently. The only official website is runelight.net. The ad that pops up above it, Runelight client, is actually a phishing client and will steal your information, unfortunately. It really sucks that this is still happening, but I mean, it gets taken down, I'm sure, but people keep making them. The website will look very similar to the Runelight website, but the only official Runelight website is runelight.net. Now, this is from yesterday, but this is one of the first few people to complete the Making Friends with My Arm quest. 2 quest points, 10k agility and mining XP, 5k firemaking, 2k construction experience, salt technologies, and a disease-free patch. So that is pretty much it for community updates. Next up, I wanted to go over the Q&A and do a quick recap of the interesting questions and answers that were given. Now, I'm mostly going to be focusing on answers to do with different content that could change or just any other interesting questions. These aren't all the questions that were asked. I've trimmed down a bit of them to make it a little bit quicker. So let's get started. The first question was, can a make X for smithing and jewelry be added? They said that they like the idea, they just need to ensure that it's functional with big enough buttons and whatnot. We'll also be pulling withdraw X buttons for banks like on mobile. Would it be possible to show us your backlog? For those who don't know, there is apparently a backlog of over 250 items that someone would like to know. They said we've just moved over to a new team structure with a team that has little QL things and small updates as their priority. Can some lesser used herblore methods get some modernization updates? The example given was breaking coconuts or CRM 207. They said they would happily update it with an automated but slower method for coconut milk. We'd have to look at CRM 207. Some players do prefer high click speed activities, but they'd be happy to look at it. Can the Desert Amulet teleport people to the altar room instead of outside? They answered maybe, not entirely against it. Can the login attempt limit be removed? They said they would remove it if we could, however the system simply can't handle the amount of hops that people may do. Perhaps we could look at the content requiring you to hop a lot as opposed to the hop limit. Can the Gnomish Firelighter be updated to store them all? They said they've just added it to the backlog, so now there's 251 items. And it'll happen eventually. Graceful is important for skilling and general gameplay. This means that a lot of players can't really show their end game achievement capes. Would it be possible to make it so the capes can be viewed or worn at the same time? The option given by the staff was to make it so the effects of graceful scale per piece. Example, wearing 5/6 of the output is slightly less good as wearing all of them, where currently if you are missing one piece you lose the entire set effect. 84% voted yes in a straw poll. When leaving the Rogue's Den, can your run energy be replenished? They said yes, maybe if you complete the game it could be reasonable for it to replenish, or make it so you can bring stamina potions in. Can we get an in-game clock so that you can keep time with friends around the world? It's been requested a few times by people on mobile as well, so it could be something we look into. Can you consider removing the delay after picking locks on the Tomb Door and Pyramid Blender? They answered they don't see any reason to leave it in. Can you speak to Shanti after completing the Desert Diary to make your glory go to the Shanti Pass? And they said yes, they would be open to doing that, and the straw poll answered 84% yes. Could lunar spells have teleport tabs? They said they'd be interested in doing it, but they have to find the appropriate place for it to go in the game. Examples, the Arceus spellbook is one of the ways they put it in, or we could adapt the POH menu and update that. The last question is, what does everyone think about tick eating on the couch? If you could remove it, would you, and why? Mostly they answered it is appropriately restricted on some bosses, like Zuck. It would be a huge decision to change it everywhere, however. And that's it for the weekly Q&A. So next up, I always like to look at some of the best Reddit suggestions for new content, or just general suggestions for RuneScape from the last week. So to start off here, a suggestion by Originator is opening up some of the dead content members only potions to free to play. Now what he is suggesting is adding in the attack potion, the restore potion, the defense potion, and the combat potion to free to play. Now this would kind of make sense since the anti-poison, the strength potion, and the energy potion are already free to play, and he gives a few different recipes for how they'd be made. For example, you'd make an attack potion with 1 limpet root, 3 woad leaves, and 5 coins. Now I do agree that these potions are pretty much useless in members, and maybe they would make more sense in free to play. So I do like this idea, and I do think they would make more sense in free to play. I do know that the free to play PKing community is very locked in at a certain way it is, because there's so little options in free to play that any minor change to even something like this could affect things a lot. However, I think for general gameplay this would make more sense, and I do like the suggestion. Next up, a suggestion by Net Fisherman, and that is the addition of new elemental tomes. Currently we have the Tome of Fire, which provides a few bonuses including unlimited fire runes. He's suggesting the addition of the Tome of Water, the Tome of Wind, and the Tome of Earth. Now I'm pretty sure Tome has a B in it. His suggestion for the Tome of Water: with water spells ignore 50% of the target's magic defense, charged with drenched pages. The Tome of Wind would increase the attack speed of wind spells from 5 to 7, charged by torn pages. The Tome of Earth would provide a 25% chance of knocking the target to the ground. Now that's interesting. I don't think they would add that in, but I do like the Tome of Wind increasing the attack speed from 5 to 7. That seems like a pretty cool bonus. There's no suggestion for how we would add these tomes into the game. However, I do actually quite like the suggestion, although I think the actual numbers and the effects could be tweaked a little bit. Next up, a suggestion that's been made quite a few times, but once in the last week, was mode-based max capes. So you get a different max cape based on the mode you're in. You get one for a regular account, a normal Ironman, a ultimate Ironman, and a hardcore Ironman. The capes do look very cool, even if this got memed out a little bit. Now, as mentioned in the Q&A, a lot of people want to see this deposit X and withdraw X button added into the regular client, because it is a very strong upgrade over how you have to do it normally. I think for the sake of fairness, we should probably just add it into the desktop version as well. However, it'd be a pretty big change because it would pretty much increase the rate of any skilling ability substantially enough for it to warrant a poll, I'm sure. Next up here, another suggestion by Kitten6660 is to fill in the void of the missing dragon equipment. So they're suggesting the Charis Hasta, the Dragon Knife, Dragon Nails, and Dragon Brutal. You get it from killing brutal black dragons or rolling on the rare drop table. The Dragon Hasta would offer 55 in attack and 60 in strength. It'd be the same as a Dragon Spear, but you have a penalty to defense, and you can use a shield. The Dragon Knife, the method of acquiring would be the Chamber of Zarak. Dragon Nails would be from right trance from Zogre Coffins. I don't know about that one. And the Dragon Brutal, created by using the Dragon Nails on a Flighted Ogre Arrow. Now, I'm not really sure about this one. I'm not sure how useful these rewards would be, but filling out the rest of the Dragon items might be cool. Maybe we should just make the Dragon Nail the most overpowered weapon in the game. That'd be kind of funny. Next up, a suggestion by 123CMD is to update random events. To make random events more useful or original as they were supposed to be, I suggest changing them slightly. He wants to change it that some of the thematic random events provide experience and not skill as opposed to just really terrible random rewards. For an example, the beekeeper, rather than the puzzle, why not have the player build a beehive from materials found in the area that will reward fletching, crafting, and construction XP based on a multiplier of your level, kind of like a random event genie box. Or the drunken dwarf. Change it so you have to help the dwarf finish his mining and smithing. He's too drunk to do it. Rewards would be 150 times your level, and I think that might need to be toned down a bit because he's saying 150 XP times your level. So if you're level, 50 in the skill, you're going to be getting, that's way too much. We'd have to tone that down quite a bit because the random events come very frequently. Maybe 10 XP times your level like any other reward. Next up here, a suggestion by S. Remiz Garufub. Oh man, is to buff the Torag hammers. Yes, the Torag's hammers kind of suck. His idea is to increase the attack speed. It's currently the same speed as a longsword. Increase the strength bonus. It's only 4 more strength than a one-handed D-Sim, which is also one-handed, faster, and a tier 60 weapon. Lower strength bonus a bit, but make it double hit. Let them be used as hammers for smithing while wielded. Yeah, okay. Pros, looks cool. Only dual-wielded weapon, literally worse DPS than the T60 hammer. Yes, I do believe that the Torag's hammers could use a buff, and I think the double hit would be kind of cool and unique. So I actually do quite like the suggestion. Next up, we have a suggestion by Frisa RS, and this is the Charis Hasta. To get this item, you would have to require the completion of Dragon Slayer 2 and Contact, and you have to take a Zamorakian Hasta and a Charis to Ellen in the Mist Guild and ask about her Hasta. In exchange for a large sum of gold, she'll combine the two into a Charis Hasta. The Charis Hasta would have a marginal stat increase over the Zamorakian Hasta. Akin to the Charis, it would deal 25% bonus damage to Calphite and Scarabites. The Charis is a very niche item for killing Calphites and apparently Scarabites, but it's just not worth using really. So I think this would be an interesting idea, although it might make it very, very strong at Calphite Queen. We'd have to see. Last up here is a very simple suggestion by Valerie RS, and that is to change the way that the POH portal room is laid out. Currently on the left you can see that you have 1 door and 3 portals. Now the way this guy has it laid out now is you kind of get these triangles in each corner, which would allow for one to have 4 portals in a room. Also would allow to have 4 doors, so it'd be more versatile in many different ways. I think this would look very cool, to be honest, and would make laying out your house quite a bit easier. And that is it for all of the Reddit suggestions. I just have one last thing I want to mention at the end here just to make your day that much happier. Fun fact, it would take between 102 years and 144 years to smith a max stack of cannonballs. If you're doing between 1700 balls an hour or 2400 balls an hour if you're paying a lot of attention, it would take about 102 years. On that note, that is going to be it for the Reddit recap for this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave the video a like. I always appreciate it, and I will see you next time.